Turn to 1 John. First epistle of John, chapter 2. We'll get there in just a moment. I'm going to start with the fact that you might disagree with initially, but then you'll be on board with me pretty quick. May make you just a little uncomfortable, but that's okay. The place that you will find the most loving people ever, the greatest number of loving people ever, is in hell. Think about it a second. Right? It's not that they failed to love, it's that they loved in the wrong way. Love can be so horrendously deadly, and yet it is joyful the whole time. Because we're talking about people who poured out their hearts in love in all kinds of ways, but to clarify a tad, they poured it out on their possessions, on their agenda, on their wishes, on their sons and daughters even. It didn't all look immoral, but it was still deadly nonetheless. So if it's that deadly, and it can be that deadly and very deceptive, then how can we love in a way that's going to be successful in our love? How can we navigate that treacherous path in a way that leads us to the pearly gates? And fortunately, God gave us instructions. He gave us some instructions on what to love and what not to love. And when we choose what to love as God directed us, then it's kind of like it's the steering wheel, if you would, and that's going to take you closer and closer to God. But if you choose what not to love, then it takes you further away from God. And the beautiful thing about all that is it's a choice. You get to choose where you direct your love. And you can choose God's way, or you can choose the world's way if you want. God's really good at giving us options there. So the first thing we're going to look at is do not love the world. That's where 1 John 2, verse 15 through 17 comes into play. John writes, do not love the world, nor the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the boastful pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. The world is passing away and also its lust, but the one who does the will of God lives forever. And isn't that the goal, that last statement, to find that eternal life? So what we are told here then is which direction to place our love. Let me reword that. The direction not to place our love. And that's on the things of the world. And they don't have to be immoral to be unprofitable. Paul said in our daily Bible reading today, he said, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable for me. A person can be totally moral and what we would call a really good person and still miss heaven because they place their love in the wrong places. So we have to choose one or the other. Matthew 6:24 is where Christ says you can't serve two masters. You're going to love one, you're going to hate the other. You got to pick one. We have to pick. Are we going to serve God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind? Or are we going to try to straddle the fence? And in the Revelation letter, he would tell us, I would rather you be cold or hot, but not lukewarm. Pick a side. Get on a side. And live it for all it's worth. Now, I'm not saying the consequences are the same. Don't misunderstand me. You live all it's worth on the broad road, you're going to go where the broad road goes. But if you're going to choose the broad road, get on it. Own it. Claim it. And if you're going to choose the narrow road, the one which I advocate, again, get on it, own it, claim it, and give it all you've got. But pick one or the other and cut the other one off. The prodigal son learned the hard way that the riches of this world are not all that he thought they were. Of course, he was young. I don't know how old he was. The text doesn't state. But you know how we kind of tease young folks. They know everything there is. And then they'll grow up and find out they didn't. That's always an amazing little journey. But he looked around and he saw things and he thought he understood things and he wanted some money and he wanted to head off to the big city, and he did. And he found out that the world is brutal. The world is tough, and the world will suck everything out of you and leave you dead and go looking for another victim. And so there he was with the pigs, wishing that he could eat what they were eating because his life was so tough. And then he wised up and he realized the love of the world is not the way to go. And he came to his senses. And that's what we hope, that everybody comes to their senses sooner rather than later. So Matthew 22:37, that's the verse I referred to a second ago. That's where he says, love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. Everything that constitutes you, you focus it to God number one. That is the place to love. That is where love will not be deadly. Love will not be that deceitful journey, but rather it'll be exactly what you want. When you step out of the tent of this flesh and into eternity, you will be glad you took that journey. But you have to make a choice. Joshua 24:15, one of my favorite Old Testament verses on making a choice. Choose you this day who you'll serve. Make a choice. And then I hope you make it like Joshua did. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Because that is the direction that leads to the deepest joys, the greatest satisfaction, the most fulfillment in this life, and of course eternity in the life to come, which is what everybody wants. So I can make that choice and enjoy those blessings, or I can make the prodigal son choice, the original one, and find out that this world is wicked. This world is mean and will use and abuse you. And it is. And now we get to make the choice. That's our free moral agency. So every choice that you make is going to be a turn of the steering wheel. There's no choice that doesn't move the wheel a little bit. And what we want to do is we want to consistently move it, where we draw nearer and nearer to God. We keep getting closer to God all the time, because that is love being used correctly. But love that keeps us somewhat indifferent, lukewarm, or moving away from God, that's not love being used in a good way. We'll go to 1 Timothy 6:10 for a moment. For the love of money is the root of all sorts of evil, and some, by longing for it, have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. I find a couple of things interesting there. Number one, you can wander away from the faith. That's stated quite clearly. And then who pierced them through with many of griefs? They pierced themselves through with many griefs. Loving money is deadly. Now, I know you caught it, and I know those of you who have been studying a while really caught it. He didn't say money is the root of all evil. That is a misquote. It is the love of money that is the root of all evil. It is that passion for money. It's that over-prioritizing money and setting it on a pedestal on which it does not belong. The old-timers used to say money makes a good servant, but it makes a horrible master. And the last thing you wanted to do is to become your master. And of course, we live in a time, I don't know if our time is really all that exceptional, but we live in a time where a lot of people have prioritized money. And they put it on a pedestal it does not belong on. And sadly, after they chase it their entire life, many of them get to the end, look back and go, I really missed it, didn't I? I've got all this stuff. I've got this big bank account. I got a big house. But I don't have any relationships to share it with. And that's where it's all really at. It's in the sharing. So here we have a substance that we need. We must have some form of money. And yet we can't fall in love with it. It just has to be seen as a tool. Hebrews 13:5. Now I'm reading from the New American Standard. So you get a little different reading. If you're in the King James and New King James, it's going to say free of covetousness. I like the way the New American Standard puts it here. Make sure that your character is free from the love of money. May I read that again? Make sure that your character is free from the love of money, being content with what you have. For he himself said, I will never desert you nor leave you, nor will I ever forsake you. There it is. Money. Again, it's what did he say? Be sure that your character is free from the love of money. He didn't say you have to take a vow of poverty, or as some of the TV evangelists would say, give it all to me. I like the way they do that. It's kind of clever. Plant your seed money. You give me $100 today, God may give you 1,000 tomorrow. Well, not literally tomorrow, but somewhere down the future. But you got to keep planting that seed again and again and again. Increase the seeds you plant. Give me $1,000 today, so on and so forth. And he flies around in his jet while you drive around in your beat up Volkswagen. I'm like, somebody was on to something, but I don't think that one was quite biblical. They got into the love of money. And are they living the good life materially? I would say yes. Where does that road end? And now I would say, they're in trouble in a way they don't understand. Judas, his North Star was money. That was what he was interested in. And Judas thought he could handle it. Judas thought he could manage all the ins and outs and the trickery and what have you. And somehow it would just all be okay. He found out he was in over his head. And he got into a situation he couldn't handle. And the only way he saw out was suicide. And that's what the love of money essentially is in an eternal perspective. So in Matthew 22:39, it tells us to love our neighbors as ourselves. Because what we want is we don't want to just say don't. After you have some don'ts, you need some do's. And so he tells us to love our neighbors as ourselves. And now we think about money in this regard. And the question is money my goal, or is money my tool to help me be a better contributor to my community, to my family, to my social circle? Do I see it as something that enables me to be a better person in that I can help other people? Or am I greedy and money's all about me? When we take our money and use it in a way that is productive to our own little social circle, don't try to solve the world. You don't have that much money. Bill Gates doesn't have that much money. Just look around at you and at the world around you and go, how can I help make the world a better place? How can I leave it a little better when I leave than when I got here? And as we do that and we focus on people, and money becomes a tool to use, a servant if you would, and our love is focused on the second greatest commandment, love your neighbor as yourself, now we're in the right direction. Now we're turning that wheel the way it ought to be going, in the way that God approves of. But it is a very deliberate, purposeful decision. We won't just blunder into it blindly and accidentally get it all right. Oh, now and then you may stumble across something and get it right and really didn't understand why you did. But a consistent practice of getting it right day after day, week after week, year after year, decade after decade, that takes a very deliberate intention that says, I'm not going to let money rule me. It is my servant. I will be the boss over it. And my love belongs to the people around me. I will love my neighbor as myself. Good Samaritan, I think, gives us a good example of that. He loved people more than his money. You know the story. The guy left on the road beat up. Several passed him by because they loved something more than they loved that man. And the Good Samaritan comes along and takes care of him. And takes him to an inn and pays for his stay. And says, if there's anything due, I'll pay it when I get back. That's using your money as a tool in loving people more than your money. And that's what brings our life to an elevated place. That's what raises us up higher and higher. Again, it's not automatic. This is something you must purposely practice as a self-discipline and say, this is the direction I'm going to go, and then force yourself to go it. And in this modern climate of money, me, That's a little bit difficult. Then he tells us not to love pleasures. We're going to go to 2 Timothy 3:4. There's a long list of things here in 2 Timothy 3:4. Well, 2 Timothy 3 verses beginning before that, actually. Now, we're just going to pick this one out of the list. If you want to get the full context, start back at verse 1. And he talks about how it's going to be difficult in the last times. Men will be lovers of self and lovers of money. And then he gets on down here to verse 4, and the list continues with treacherous, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding a form of godliness, although they have denied its power. Avoid such men as these. Now, this is not a blanket condemnation of all pleasure. God gave us many things to enjoy. In fact, if you'll turn back just a page or two, we'll look at 1 Timothy 6 and around verse 17. It said, instruct those who are rich in this present world not to be conceited or to fix their hope on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly supplies us with all things to enjoy. God's not anti-pleasure. The problem is when pleasure becomes the goal. And I would say that mankind has always had that mentality, but no culture has taken it as far as the American culture has taken it. And it is our technology has given us that option to make entertainment, pleasure, a 24/7 whatever we want. If you could not sleep for 24 hours, you could literally entertain yourself in some way or another and never have to leave your recliner because our technology has done that. Now try to think back. And this is just imaginary for us, but there was a day before there was radio. You didn't have a lot of entertainment. Now there was entertainment. There would be, some backyard porch picking, or there'd be a little bit of storytelling. There'd be a little bit of get together, but it wasn't all the time. You didn't carry it with you. And then we got into TV. I have nothing against I Love Lucy and Leave It to Beaver. That was good moral entertainment. But now we've gone from the time where most people work from dark to dark to now there's more and more TV time. Multiple hours in the day. I don't know the latest statistic, but it's around 6 to 8 hours a day the average person has on screen time, not working, but entertaining themselves. And then when we got to the iPhone, my goodness, did we ever open that up? And isn't it kind of nice in a way? You're standing in line at Walmart, you're 14 people back, and you're going to be there a while. You can open up your Facebook and you can just kind of mindlessly scroll for a moment and be entertained, a little bit of pleasure. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I am saying there comes a point where pleasure becomes the goal of life. What's on TV today? What do we eat today? What are people play with today? What are my entertaining options today? And Bible reading and Bible study and doing the things that Christians have traditionally done to visit the widows and the orphans and their afflictions and all of those things, it's knocked way down the scale. I'm going to get to that, but right now I need to, and there's screen time again. And some of the new psychology that's coming out is talking about how messed up our teenagers are, and they are. And one of them says very boldly, it is 100% because of excessive screen time. Let me just ramble off on that a second. Everybody's looking for the answers. Everybody's looking for pleasure. Problem is, not everything on your internet, on your Facebook, your TikTok, your Instagram, your X, used to be Twitter, on your Facebook, whatever, it's not all real. You got a lot of pretend people pretending like they know what they're talking about. They have a good personality. They're charming, and they're just feeding you one lie after the other. And as it all starts to implode, and it is starting to implode because there was constant pursuit of pleasure in one form or another, now they're trying to buoy it back up. And it's not working. You chase the wrong kind of pleasure. And I would tell you I have to always say it this way. I'm not trying to take your screen away from you. Don't try to take mine away from me. But learn how to manage it, because that screen cannot get you into heaven. That screen can get you into hell, but it cannot get you into heaven. And if you allow me to elaborate just a tad more, that screen can get you into an earthly hell with a lot of bad ideas and bad information that you didn't have sense enough to understand was a lie to start with because it sounded good. And then you end up in a state of misery that you can't find your way out of. Earthly pleasure, it's a cruel master. Satan's not here to be your friend. He's here to dangle the bait in front of you and lead you off the path and make you think you're going the right way, prodigal son, until you're in the pigsty wishing you could eat what the pigs were eating. Look, it's all about developing honest, sincere relationships. And I don't mean 100 or a dozen, just 3 or 4, 5 or 6. In John 13, verse 34, he tells us to love one another. This is it, isn't it? That's the second greatest command. It's not about pleasure. It's about people. A new command I give you, that you love one another, even as I loved you, that you also love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for me. I have a book on my shelf. It's called It's All About the People. That's it. It really is. It's all about the people and having that nice little circle of folks that you can kind of hang around with and enjoy life with. You can weep when you need to weep, and you can cry when you need to cry, but they're there and they're consistent. When we read Hebrews 10:24 and 25, it said, let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds, not forsaking our assembling together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. It's not about pleasure and fun and games and parties. It's about living the life God set out before us. And we can love that. And you can fall in love with that. And you can invest yourself in His path, and you can invest yourself in others. So you have a choice. You can love money and invest your life in gaining more and more money, or you can love others and invest yourself in the life of people around you. I suggest, of course, you choose loving people. Don't love falsehood. Psalms 52 and 3, there was a problem back then. There always has been a problem of people who just love lies. Let's go Psalms 52. Let's do verse 2, 3, and 4. Your tongues devise destruction, like a sharp razor or worker of deceit. You love evil more than good, falsehood more than speaking what is right. You love all words that devour, O deceitful tongue. There's a lot of folks that think lies are just neat. And it doesn't have to be this big, crazy, bold-faced lie. It just be a rationalization, a little spin, a little twist. You know how it goes. Somebody does one thing and then they redefine what they did. We did it as kids all the time. Get too rough with a sibling, get tattled on, and then look at mom and go, well, all I said was... And don't we say it in the sweetest, nicest, just prettiest tone, like, how could that ever have been wrong? But it was. We're lying to ourselves. And the easiest lies to believe are the ones that you tell yourself. So it's more than just words, it's the heart. When Satan lied, John 8:44, it was because it was who he was. And the last thing we want that to be, dishonesty, to be who we are. We want to love people. Matthew 5:44 tells us to love our enemies. And that's what we want to do. We want to learn to love everybody. Now, love doesn't mean that same feeling like you have when you're talking to about your grandkids, maybe. That might be a good one. Love is seeking the good of other people. That's basically your agape love, seeking the good of somebody else. Maybe I should clarify, seeking the eternal good of somebody else. Not all the way that we just, have so much fun with grandbabies and all that kind of thing. It's a responsibility. And that's the path we choose. And lying to somebody and misleading them is not to their good. So people who love falsehoods, of course, are steering themselves further and further away from God. And what we're going to do is we're going to learn to rise above the crowd, travel the straight and narrow road, and not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good, which is your Romans 12 and 21. Way easier said than done, because we are emotional creatures, and our emotions do get stirred. That's what keeps you hooked to your favorite news channel. They have learned that if they can stir your emotions, primarily your negative emotions, you will hang on to that TV channel longer than if they did not aggravate you. Now, the trick is they want to aggravate you against a common opponent so that you feel supported. The problem is, and I'm going to offend somebody probably, both sides are lying through their teeth. I've watched both sides. I've watched the liberal media. I've watched the conservative media. And rarely do either side tell you what's really going on. They tell you their version of what's going on, and then they play it up to get you stirred up so you'll hang in with where they're at longer and longer. More of your time on their screen means more money they get from their advertisers. Now, that's the business model. The thing is, you and I have to be smart enough to understand when we're being played, when we're being used and manipulated. And that's one of the most difficult things to do. Because we don't want to think that someone would lie to us. Nobody would lie to me. Why would somebody use and manipulate me? I've not done anybody any wrong. It's not about what you've done. It's about you got something they want. And when it comes to TV and screens, your time on the screen translates into more money in their pocket. They don't care about you. They're not going to show up and visit you at the hospital. They're not going to send you a get well card when you get sick. They're not going to give any condolences at your funeral. They just want you as long as somehow you benefit them. And so you have to rise above the crowd, see through the lies, and invest your life where it really, really matters. And I'm going to say, that's not that difficult. If you're married, the one that really, really matters is the one that wears the ring you put on his or her finger. There's your number one. You got children? There's your number two. You got some grandbabies and extended family? There's your number 3 and 4. And right there, you've got more time. You have more investment than you have time for right there. But isn't that the place? Statistics say that there are more people. I need to look up my statistic, but there are so many people that cannot hold up 5 fingers and name 5 close friends they could call any time, day or night, when they're in a situation. Watch out for the falsehoods. Satan wants to divide and conquer. You fall in love with pursuing God and people. And finally, do not love the praise of men. John 12:43, many of the religious leaders really believed that Jesus was the Christ, that he was the Son of God, but they would not confess him because they loved the praise of men more than the praise of God. We have to make a choice. Where do we want to stand? Applause is really short-lived. Applause is really short-lived. How many times have you got on a new job, and everybody's going, oh, you're just the greatest. We're so glad you're here now. You just make this place so much better. And 2 months later, they're looking at you like it's your fault. Everything that went wrong for the last 10 years went wrong. How many times have we elected somebody and applauded and cheered them on, And those that applauded and cheered them on a week later are talking about how rotten and wicked they are. That's the way the applause works. The public has a very, very short memory, and you get caught chasing applause, you're going to be in a really ugly place one day. This happens to a lot of our sports stars, where they're out there and they're living the life and they're on the field and the fans are just screaming, hurrah, hurrah, and then they retire. And nobody applauds anymore. And they feel lonely and forgotten and kicked to the curb because they never developed anything deeper than that shallow chasing of the praise of men. Don't chase the praise of men. It's going to leave. And it's going to leave way quicker than what you might think. Mediocre relationships, a dime a dozen, but you can get some real substance, but that real substance means real investment. But when you put in that real investment, then you have something that can last for a lifetime. And I think that's what a lot of us like. So, put on the surface show, no depth, people like that all the time. Learn to see through that. Ephesians 5:25. Now, this is about marriage, and he told men to love their wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. I want you to go a little further than just the marriage relationship there for a moment. The relationships that you have and you hold for a lifetime and have depth and meaning and warmth for a lifetime are when we give ourselves up for one another. Now, if you've been around a user, and most of us have, you know the difference. There are people that you can enjoy their company and being around and go out and get a cup of coffee with or something, and they're okay. But there's something missing. And then there are people that you're with and there's a real connection and there's some real depth. And you know you've got something special. And I'm going to tell you that those are the ones in which we do like Christ. We give ourselves up for the relationship. We truly invest in that relationship. Ananias and Sapphira, they wanted just to impress people. They went for the applause. Looked like they were giving away some land, got a little greedy, kept a little money behind. Didn't work out too good, did it? It's not going to work out good for us either. So don't chase human approval. Don't be running after that. Don't love the applause of men. Rather, seek the approval of God. That's the one that lasts into all eternity. So the direction of your love, Galatians 6:8, you're going to sow what you reap. You reap to the flesh, you're going to reap corruption. It doesn't matter what we say we're sowing. It's what we actually sow that matters. And we're going to reap what we actually sow. So we can profess it or we can have the reality of it. I want to encourage us to move toward the reality side. And the choice is there for us every single day. Every day, in a bazillion little ways. That's where the choice is made. And I want to emphasize that little bittiness one more time. Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, do it as though you're doing it for the Lord. The little bitty things. Think about the Lord. I think that's your path forward. So where you aim your love determines your eternity. It's not my rule. That's God's rule. So we close simply by asking, where are you aiming your love? Aiming in the right direction. You keep aiming there. You see some places you need to correct. You go ahead and make those corrections while you still have time. We can help you in a public way. Let us do so. While together, we stand and sing.